Progress invites pushback. When we progress toward the nation's equality ideal, there's always going to be pushback. You know, I so remember the aftermath of President Obama's election, big step forward for the nation. There was huge pushback after that. And some of it is racism. But some of it's even broader. Humans don't like change that much. I try really hard to be intentional about rooting out any racism or discrimination or segregation in my own mindset. You know, I had a narrow upbringing just like we all did. We all grew up in a particular way, and we have to try to shed any preconceptions or discriminations we can. And you wouldn't be here at a Martin Luther King Day breakfast if this was not something you're committed to. But even if you get beyond issues of racism, humans, change makes us nervous. Even just kind of subconsciously, things start to change, and then we kind of want to push back. And you can see in discrimination, and you can see in some of the harsh language that people are using, whether it's to people of color or people based on their religion, you can see both some racial or discriminatory animus, but you can also see when progress happens, there's going to be pushback. And that's why it's important to do this every year, because this work's never going to finish. That's why it's important that the NAACP is still going strong after 150, 120 years, because the work's never going to be over. The nation at least chose wisely when it set the equality principle as the principle. Jefferson, very conflicted, couldn't live it, but he at least said, of the truths that are self-evident, the first one was the equality principle, and then Lincoln at Gettysburg, he jettisoned all the others. Can a nation dedicated to the proposition, the equality proposition, won't survive? Equality is like the North Star of this nation. And like a sailor, you can steer by the North Star, you're never going to get to the North Star. But when you steer by it, you do better. And when you set it aside or focus on something else, we do worse. Progress will create its own pushback. And we have to know that and expect it and be realistic about it. But we have people like Dr. Kaine who persisted. I mean, oh my gosh, how many times? As far as I know, Dr. Kaine only said one thing. I started off talking about 1619 and the slaves arriving in Virginia the same year the General Assembly started and how we progressed. Dr. King only referred to that once as far as I'm aware, and he said something really interesting that talks about just the need to persist. When he was speaking against the Vietnam War, he was challenged as you're not patriotic. You are not patriotic to speak against the Vietnam War. And he responded in a pretty powerful way. You're questioning our patriotism? We were here before the Pilgrims came to Plymouth Rock. And we built this country largely without pay and in chains. So you have no right to question our patriotism. But that quote about "we were here," which is a reference to Virginia 1619, was also an acknowledgement of it takes a long time. And by being at it, we earn the right to stay at it. And you're honoring Dr. King with this breakfast this morning shows that you're staying at it. And this country needs you, and this world needs you.